Welcome back to POV, your favorite political commentary show. And this week, we're going to be discussing what happened over the course of the last 5 days in this country. So let's get it. It's official, people. Everyone is feeling the pinch. And if you thought pricing wars were a personal issue for citizens, think again. The need to price in Forex has now become a pressing matter for even the government. On the 29th of May, we had the National Railways of Zimbabwe, or the NRZ, issuing a memo to all its customers that its freight services will be benchmarked in US dollars at the official exchange rate, beginning the 1st of June. We looked at this and said, okay, the rationale makes sense. The railway needs specialist spares and consumables that aren't produced locally, and as a business, they must ensure their survival. It is, more or less, the only rail operator in the country. Now, on the same day, we saw the Department of Research and Specialist Services in the Lands of Agricultural Ministry also going the same route as the NRZ. This was widely castigated on the social media circles because, frankly, most of us don't even know what this department does, and that wouldn't warrant the benchmarking of its fees. Well, the DR and the SS is a specialized department that does soil testing, crop breeding, research, biological statistical research of the agricultural industry, and much of this work relies on imported chemicals and equipment that can't be sourced locally. The ensuing outcry clearly didn't sit well with the finance ministry and saw them issuing a public statement on the 31st of May warning government ministries, departments, and agencies against such behavior as it was against Treasury guidelines. Government must set its approved fees and charges in cost recovery level in RTGS. Now, this begs the question. In the current environment, where state enterprises, parastatals, and specialized departments are constantly pushed to break even, and performing financially is a miracle work, is there anything wrong with them basing their charges or services with large imported content in foreign currency? I mean, if they need to keep on providing the services at the level that we require them to, should they not be allowed to get the currency in which they are allowed to do it? Food for thought. Let's carry on. So on one end, the government is looking for Forex. And on the other, there was confusion of the rights of citizens being stripped away right before their eyes. See, last week, Wednesday, saw a flurry of activity as the president signed the Tripartite Negotiating Forum Act and launched the TNF later that morning in the event of much pomp and fanfare. Really? What is it with our government and just launching things? This is yet another thing that's been launched, but let's not get carried away on that. What is the TNF anyway? Simply put, the TNF is an organization comprised of government, industry bodies, and labor unions that works to establish common ground in the actions that each one of them makes, so as to keep the country moving. It's like a honesty pact that's meant to keep everyone in line. See, if government raises taxes or introduces harmful policies, industry and labor are meant to speak out and offer alternatives. If industry raises prices without valid reason, government and labor hold them to account. And if labor unions advocate for crazy wage hikes or demonstrations, government and industry hold them to account as well. So here's the thing. When the news first broke out about this, people thought the government was trying to intervene in our rights to demonstrate. And there seemed to be some confusion as to whether the TNF itself was going to outlaw people's ability to strike or have stayaways. And the answer to that is no. There's nothing in the act that actually stops employees from demonstrating peacefully and, of course, in order to have their grievances met. This body simply tries to get people to work things out at a high level before it escalates into a full-blown shutdown. Seems like a good move to me. So at the beginning of the week, the government was looking for Forex. In the middle of the week, we were looking for our rights. So what happened at the end of the week? This is the one that's got everybody talking at the moment. At a national cleanup event in Southern Park, the president announced that the country would have a new currency by the end of the year.
Zvinoitwa nokuti hatina mari dzedu, hatina yedu. Tichasvika pokuti ma-American dollar kana pound aiwa, munoiwana, unogara nayo zvako muhomwe, asi kana oda kunotenga, onoichinja. Otora mari yedu yatichagadzira, muchazoiudziwa. Ndio munotenga nayo.
This statement made many shake in their boots at the thought of more financial changes this year and ultimately What would happen to our nostril accounts and our US dollars? Because we've already seen this act happening before. Is this the return of the dreaded Zim dollar? I mean, what has sparked this move? And why now? These are all the pertinent questions, as the president said in his speech that the multi-currency regime had served its purpose and was now limiting the country to exchange rate watchers. While this statement isn't new, as of course our finance minister, Mr. 2% Mangwe, said something similar back in April, it still makes one wonder whether we're seeing the same picture, or even if we live in the same picture. Well, here's how we think a little differently to this point. There are a number of things that a fully fledged currency needs to survive. Confidence, and a lot of it. Industrial production, and of course, foreign currency reserves. The nation is currently running very low on these things. In fact, we have so much foreign debt that our current forex generator can't cover our current requirements and the existing debts. Not to be naysayers, guys, but as things look right now, we're running far and short of the fundamentals required to fully reintroduce the local currency. This feels like a classic example of the government signaling intentions in a manner that destabilizes the market. It does more harm than good, and one wonders what will happen to the exchange rates in the coming days, weeks, and months as more information on this very ambitious plan comes to the fore. Hopefully, whenever the conversion happens, there will be a consultative process on the effects of the change to the economy and how to best counteract the negative side effects. We can't, I repeat, we cannot have a repeat of February's SI 33 of 2019, which changed the landscape overnight without warning or preparation. If we're going to actually do this whole reintroduction of the Zim dollar, it needs to be done correctly. And by correctly, it means that everyone, every citizen, deserves to have ample time to prepare, to be forewarned, and to have a plan in place to protect themselves for the devastating effects, should they be there. More in my POV. So I was thinking to myself this week, rather these last couple of days, when the president announced that the new currency might be coming in. In 2014, when our now governor was starting off, he said the same thing. We're going to have a new currency. And it was met with panic. When our finance minister started off, he also said the same thing. In fact, he was a little bit more bold because he was going to introduce the new currency within the first few months of his tenure. And that too was met with panic. And now here we have our president saying that we're going to have this new currency come in, and it's also been met with panic. What are we picking up here, guys? The issue of this new currency, and whether people want it or not, has got a lot attached to it. A lot attached in historical evidence that shows that these sort of moves never end well with us. Again, and I say this all the time, if this is something that's actually going to happen, this is an opportunity for our president, our government, our ministers, our governor to be able to establish the necessary trust to gain confidence from us. Because all the panic that comes is not an issue of currency. It's an issue of trusting the person introducing the currency. And if we can't trust them, then it doesn't matter whether they bring it in today, tomorrow, next week, next year, it will still result in the same panic, the same mistrust, and the same old, same old. So here's a chance, guys. If this is something that you're actually going to do, let's do it right. Let's do it properly and actually show that for once, Zimbabweans can live knowing that you have our back. This is Kuda Mangwe saying good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Till next week, guys. Cheers.